Hello there, welcome back to my podcast. My name's Joseph Clough, and you can find more information about me at www.josephclough.com. Or if you wish, you can go ahead and join my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Joseph's fan page. So I'm pleased to actually be back on the podcast. I've been away for a little while simply because I've had this dreaded virus. And for the first time in a long time, it must have been a week and a half now, I've actually felt good enough and healthy enough and energetic enough and clear-headed enough to be able to do a podcast for you. Before I get on to today's subject, it's quite important. One of the learnings I've thought about with this virus I've had is to really take time out. I was probably working a little bit too hard, which caused my body to feel drained, and thereafter I was still kind of motivated to do some work where really I should just take the time off. So as you should know, it's really important when your body says stop to just stop for a while, because you'll heal yourself so much quicker. And it's one of those learnings which I have to keep on learning because I like to do what I do, and unfortunately my body doesn't want that to happen. So really, take time off if you need to have time off. Now, today's podcast subject is really about a common question that I'm usually asked. And it's one of those questions which, in principle, is quite easy, but to really understand the answer, it can be quite complex, because the question is, how do I change someone in my life? How can I make someone change? How can I get someone to change their behavior from a behavior they don't like or a behavior that you don't like? And how can you actually allow that to happen in a good way? Well, straight away, it's not our responsibility to change other people. It's one of the learnings that I've learned over the last 10 years of doing hypnosis is that I see a lot of people around me, and I see people's issues. And I don't obviously psychoanalyze, but obviously anyone can see if someone's having a hard time. Whether it be with a fear, whether it be addictions, whether it be with depression, anxieties, the job they dislike, the health of someone else. We want to be able to change people, but one of the learnings I've learned is we can't do that. And it's important that we don't try to, because if you've ever been told to do something or to change your life or to just do something else, it doesn't feel very nice receiving that kind of whether it be motivation or a criticism. And in fact, by telling people to change, or even suggesting ways they can help on a continued basis, actually reaffirms the issue for them. Because no one likes to be told that, and more often than not, they can actually become passive-aggressive. And every time where someone tells you not to do something, there's a little part of you which says, actually, I'm going to do it because it's up to me. No one likes to be told what to do, and it's not the great way of getting people to change. So how do we actually get people to change? So first of all, for anyone to change, they've got to take responsibility to change. They've got to take complete responsibility for the issue that they have. A lot of people, when I see them on a one-to-one basis, their first mindset is that it's either the behavior they have or the problem they have is their identity. Now, when someone has their behavior or their problem at an identity level, they feel as if that's who they are. So I am depressed. Or I have this phobia, or I can't change. These are like kind of belief systems they have very, very close to them, which are very hard to shift and transform. Ultimately, I believe that they've been hypnotized too much by their present situation, their past, as well as their own self-talk about who they are and how they should be. And naturally, if you've had an issue for a prolonged period of time, it will become ingrained. It'll become like a habit. It's just like driving. The more you do it, the more you just do it naturally. So it becomes a part of their identity, the I am statements. I am depressed, or I have ADHD, or I am stupid, or I am not good enough. These are all kind of belief systems that they began to pick up. And they can't see themselves in any other way than that. It's like they're looking through their own perception tunnel. If you can imagine like having blinkers on, and all you can see is your issue. That's how they feel. That's what their reality is showing them. That there's who they are, and there's how they act and react. And no matter how hard it is to tell someone that this is not true, that the world is good, that they are worthy, that they can be happy, they can't see that because they're seeing it, the whole world, their whole reality in their own perspective. And more often than not, the more they're told this, the more they can get frustrated within themselves. And that's when the passive aggression may come into it. But they can't actually see how they can change. They're just being told to change. So let's just say there's a person in your life who you would like to change because you want something, you want a better life for them. But we know we just can't tell them to change because their reality is telling them different. And I don't know about you, you'll argue your belief systems to death sometimes. If you believe that you're right, where it be a bad thing, but like the belief that you have is a bad thing, no one can convince you otherwise. So we're really dealing with some heavy duty stuff here, real ingrained belief systems which become their identity, and therefore they see their world that way. So knowing we can't battle that war, really, we can't win that, it's really important to be able to do something else. So I've got two types of solutions when it comes to making changes in people. One really comes across on the esoteric type of side of things. So going much more into spirituality, much more being completely interconnected with everything around us, all those type of mindsets. And then the other one really goes back to, I would say, more of the coaching side. So I want to give you two tips here ultimately. So the first one, let's go for the esoteric type of side, the what some people might think are woo-la-la kind of mindsets. But I love this. I mean, I believe this. There's my own belief system, and I don't expect you to take it on fully because I have my own belief systems. You have your own belief systems, and I think they're perfect exactly how they are if you're okay with them. But what I would like to do is for you to be open-minded, just to consider some other things. So if we were to go down this first route, and I'll get to the coaching parts in a moment or so, I believe that we are interconnected. I believe we're just energy. Everything around us is energy. E equals MC squared is all about how everything around us is made up of energy. Now, I will never say that. I mean, there's a lot of self-help people out there who proclaim to know quantum physics. They kind of say it out there like they've got it. They understand it. Now, about 7 years ago, I brought an introductory book to quantum physics for university level. And I thought, what, this is going to be easy to learn. Well, as soon as I opened it up, it was the size of a Bible, and it had a load of mathematics and loads of long words I couldn't understand. So I'm never going to tell you that I believe or that I can understand quantum physics. And a lot of people out there who tell you they do probably don't, unless they've been educated at university level or they're really scholars of the whole physics side of things, about how the world is made up on a quantum level, the real smallest part of reality. But what I grasp and what my beliefs are from the books that I've read and the things I've been taught over the years is that everything is energy. Now, my belief system is if we are all energy, it's like we're in a sea of energy. So if you can imagine yourself in your mind now that you're in this world of simply energy, and you are energy, and everything around you is energy, all vibrating at different levels. And you could say, for metaphorical purposes, the people who have issues, let's just say they were vibrating at a slower rate, just for visualization purposes. So those people with issues may have a lower vibration rate, let's say. And here's you really wanting to help someone. The frequencies, metaphorically, I mean, it is not actually necessarily true, but the frequencies are completely out of miss. So that person can't receive that type of information because they're at, say, a lower level, say, and they can't see beyond their issue because all they see in their world is their issue. But let's just say, for example, if we were to be interconnected, and if we are interconnected, I mean, another model that I like to go by, I mean, it's a great book, by the way. If you want to blow your mind on how the nature of reality is, obviously there's lots of other belief systems about it, but there's a great book by Michael Talbot called The Holographic Universe, a wonderful book. When I first got into hypnosis and NLP, it was one of the first books I read within like a year or so, which was outside of hypnosis and so on. But it really blew my mind. And ultimately, the Holographic Universe is saying that everything is like a hologram. Now, if you go to other therapies, like things like acupuncture, so you're working on certain parts of the body, or things like acupuncture of the ear, how they explain it is like the ear is like a representation for the whole body. And they do this in lots of other therapies, like in reflexology on the hands and the feet, how the hands make up like an image of the rest of the body. And if you were to work on those hands by like massage or what have you, it's actually going to be able to help the rest of your body. Now, the way that the hologram works is, if you were to have like a holographic plate, if you were to, say, have that holographic plate, a picture of, say, a flower, if you were to cut it in two, just like with some scissors, you would expect to be able to have two pictures, and one of them being half a flower and the other one being the other half. Because that kind of makes sense, right? But actually, when it comes to a hologram or a holographic plate, it's completely different. If you were to cut that in half, you would actually get two flowers, but slightly more, say, for example, a bit more misty. It's like that when you cut it in half, you keep the same image, but it just becomes less detailed, less information in it. And if you would cut it into half again on both of them, you'd then have 8 pictures, and you cut it again and cut it again. Ultimately, you're getting the same picture, but at a much smaller level with less and less detail. Now, this book by Michael Talbot is really a great book, and it explains lots of phenomenons around what we experience in day-to-day life and go into like spirituality and the universe. And it ultimately says that like the whole universe is a hologram. So we are ultimately a very, very distorted and less detailed representation of the universe. Now, that's quite interesting to just even grasp, if we can grasp it. So it's like saying that, okay, my hand is like a representation of my whole body. That's why they do things like reflexology. And there's lots of science behind this, lots of biological side of that. Each part of the organ is a representation of the rest of the body. I mean, if you go into metamedicine, a lot of the brain has been mapped out to have a direct connection to the rest of the body. So it's like the brain has a map of the rest of the body, and if you kind of work on that, then you transform the rest of your body. So the reason why I'm saying this is, if, for example, our body or our body parts or our organs is a representation of the whole of us, the interesting question is, what are we a representation of? Are we a representation of the universe? Are we a representation of our own environment? And that gets a very interesting point, because if we are ultimately a representation of the rest of our environment, therefore the environment is slightly us. Therefore, when we begin to take that mindset on, we're ultimately saying that everything around us is a representation of what we perceive, but also a part of us. So the people we don't like in ourselves could be a representation of a behavior that we have in ourselves that we dislike within ourselves. And there's in Hawaii, the kahunas that did a process, or like a subsection of huna, was, if I can get it right, Ho'oponopono, or something like that. Anyway, Hawaii's got some amazing long words, which I'm not even the best at English half the time, so let alone Hawaiian type of words, but like Ho'oponopono. And ultimately, it's a mindset of the same type of thing, that in order to change the external reality, our external world around us, we must change ourselves. And one of the processes to be able to change people would be to say 4 phrases that we would just repeatedly say throughout the day about this issue. One of them would be saying, I forgive you. So we say, when you think of that person, we say, I forgive you. And even we forgive that part of ourselves, which may be a representation of that. So we're saying, I forgive you. And I've done another blog about Ho'oponopono as well in the past, so you may want to research that for a bit more information. But another phrase that they say is, I love you, I'm sorry, and thank you. So forgive me, thank you, I love you, and I'm sorry. And you keep on repeating that to yourself throughout the day, or taking a bit of time out and just doing like a meditation, or just relaxing the mind and just focusing on that person and repeating that phrase. And ultimately, if we were to believe in this way of thinking that we are interconnected, that we are simply a representation of the world around us, it's ultimately going to transform and transcend them themselves, because you're connected with them. So by saying those phrases continuously, you're really like cleansing yourself and cleaning yourself and cleaning and cleaning and cleaning with these 4 sentences, that they actually begin to change. Now, obviously, there's not much science to that, although a good friend of mine, Dr. David Hamilton, his new book coming out, when I was talking about it, is really about how people pick up on what you're thinking and how you pick up on what people are thinking at a very, very different level. So watch out for this. It'll be on his website, Dr. David Hamilton. I can't wait till it's actually published, because it just seems absolutely amazing. A real breakthrough studies about this as well. This is not self-help. This is not wishful thinking. This is not woo-woo la-la stuff. This is real scientific studies about it. And that's why I'm really excited. Although I do have these mindsets of which are a little bit out there, excuse me, they are a little bit out there, but I'm really analytical, and I want to know how things work, and I want to know about the studies to see what's true and what's not true. So if you were to keep cleansing yourself and cleaning yourself those sentences, you're therefore going to transform them, because you are connected with them, and maybe they're a representation of who you are, a behavior that you dislike, and maybe a behavior and even a tendency within yourself that when you look real deep inside, that you may have the same issue. Maybe not in the most extreme way like maybe theirs, but maybe at a small level, or maybe the same type of issue in a different area of your life. So that's one way of being able to change other people. But if you weren't to believe that, I mean, I really suggest you testing it out. I mean, why not test this out? It doesn't take too long to just keep doing, and it's very, very simple, and ultimately you're working yourself anyway. So I really like to test these things out, and I really suggest you to do this to see actually what happens, and feel free to let me know, because I know when I've done it, somehow, some way, changes have been made, and they can be quite dramatic. So it's just a little bit out there, but test it out. Now, the other way, if we really break it down, how do we actually change people who have issues without going down that route, for example? And to me, there's only one way to do that. You have to completely show them they can change by changing yourself and being the best that you can be. Because when you think about it, they're seeing this reality that they can't achieve a certain goal, that they're not aware there are other possibilities to being free of this issue. So you have to be the example in their reality that they can change. You have to be the example which tells them and convinces them that they can change. Because what's telling them true is their present belief system. Now, if you tell someone that they must change, you're actually going against their belief system. You're actually battling them, and you can't change like that. You can only just reaffirm their issue. So the only real one way of making changes in someone else, other than what I've just said about how we're all interconnected, is ultimately to be the best that you can be and show them they can change. Be the example of change, because they can't deny that. If they see something in their reality of making changes and showing that they can be the best person they can be, you can't deny that. They're seeing it, they're hearing it, they're experiencing it, and they have to, at an unconscious level, take it on. Because another little study for you is that if you see people working out, or you see people do something, your body will actually reproduce it in a very minute way. And I've done lots of studies about this. People, with, say, for their index finger, pressing a button, and they kept them pressing it and pressing that button, and they measured how much stronger the finger was after a couple of weeks of doing it for an hour a day. And then they got another group to just imagine it. Imagine moving a thing like that. And they took the results again, not as high, but there was absolute, definite growth in the finger muscle there. And they weren't even doing it, they were just imagining it. I mean, if you think about it, if you've been really engrossed in a movie, you feel whatever the actor's feeling. You're so in touch with that movie, you're in the movie. I mean, I've been in a cinema once, it was years ago, and it was a packed cinema, and then this lady shouted out, "Don't look round!" And everyone was like, what the hell's happening here? But she was so engrossed. It was like, it was her part of the reality, that she was so in it that she felt like she should give advice. And we've all had that, maybe not that extreme situation, but when we watch a movie, we feel emotion. It's like we're a part of it. Our body absorbs what's going on around us. So if a person in your life has an issue and they can't see the light, if you be the change that you want them to be, I mean, if you just come to my mind, Gandhi said, you must be the change you want to see in the world. And that's really kind of sums up this whole podcast. I mean, really, I should have just said that at the beginning, shouldn't I? But thinking about, you must be the change you want to see in the world. So if you want to change someone, you must be the change that you want them to see. And then their brain at an unconscious level will actually pick that up. May not consciously straight away, but their unconscious mind will see there's other opportunities, other ways of being that allows them to be. So really inspire yourself and get them to aspire to your level. You must be the change that you want them to have. When you do that, unconsciously they take that on. So we've really got two tips here. On the one hand, we've got that we're all completely interconnected. And if you were to change yourself, therefore, your reality changes and therefore they can change. But in some way, it's like the higher, if we take the metaphor of, say, they're a lower vibration, the more you increase your vibration, the more you're actually going to allow them to go up as well. So when you change yourself that way, you're going to change them because we're interconnected. But on the other hand, we've got this other mindset, which ultimately goes down the same way, but in a different mindset, a different way of seeing the solution, is that you must be the change you want them to have. So when you change yourself, they will change too. You must be the change you want them to be. That gives them an actual proof, a truth, to be able to know they can change. And to me, that's the most wonderful thing. I mean, I received so many, I'm really grateful for receiving so many great comments in the emails that I get. And one of the common things which comes up is that they like my work and they say, it's now given me hope that I can do and make a change in my life. Goes down the exact same principle. They can see that you can make changes. They've seen people maybe comment or post on my wall and think, actually, I can maybe do this. So you must give them a solution by being the solution. So I hope that really makes sense with you. I mean, if you have any more questions about that, go ahead onto my fan page on Facebook. I mean, we can really start talking there on facebook.com/Joseph's fan page. And maybe ask me another question about it, because I can only speak to you the way I see it. Usually I only get the one question when it comes to this: how can I make someone change in their life? So there's how I would explain it in a fairly long-winded way, but a way which hopefully you can really grasp and like try it on, and hopefully that will resonate with you, and you can begin to see how you can actually adapt that into your life, and therefore they'll adapt it into their life. So I hope you enjoyed that. I would hope to really getting onto these podcasts much more frequent now. I am back to full health, ready to go. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, when I'm really back at work. I'm really feeling good about it. So I want to really make these podcasts always very, very frequent. And the next one, I'm sure I'm going to make sure it's a hypnosis, because I know I've done a few coaching ones recently. So maybe a bit of coaching and a bit of hypnosis to really get you to be where you want to be. So I hope you're very well. I really mean that. I want you to know that rather being a product of life, allow life to be a product of you, what you choose to create, that you are worthy, that you are good enough, that you can achieve what you want to achieve. It does take commitment. It does mean that you got to stay focused on what you want, and you got to take action about that. You got to do things to make it happen. But ultimately, you can do and have and be whoever you want. But you just got to take that responsibility within yourself and allow other people, be the beacon that people can see. Show them the light by being the light, rather than telling them what to do. That's the real true way of making changes. If you try to tell them, they'll go against you. If you battle their beliefs, you reaffirm their beliefs. They hold on to them very tightly. But when you change yourself, absolutely you change others. I mean, just very quickly, one of the famous quotes I love is that you are the sum of the 5 closest people in your life. So ultimately, if the people you spend the most time with, you are a product of them and you are made up with them. So if you hang around with lots of depressed people, the chances are, after a prolonged amount of time, you're going to be depressed. If you hang around with people who are very happy and confident and vibrant and really kind of joyful, that's going to rub off on you. And if you look at a lot of the business people, a lot of the entrepreneurs, they have business mentors still to this day. They have their mastermind groups. They have people around them who are of a like mind, who have knowledge or have the type of success that they want. And therefore that rubs off on them. That's the best way of making changes. So if we were to say that were to be true, that you are the sum of the 5 people, the sum of the 5 closest people in your life, you're going to think, well, how can I change myself, which will then allow the people in your life to also change too. So show them how to change by changing yourself. That will truly inspire them, and they'll aspire to be that desired solution because they can see it within you. And that's the most beautiful thing about life. But you can have a profound effect on someone by just being the best person you can be. So have a most wonderful day, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.